You've been looking for it, a full list of the best SEO audit tools. We're blessed to be able to walk through an incredible list put together by a newcomer in the SEO industry. Two great stories today on The Edge.
Go! Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. Powered by your digital marketing pioneers, Site Strategics. This week's featured guest is Olga Zarzeczna, SEO consultant and SEO site auditor at SEO Slide. Now, here's your host, Erin Sparks.
This is Edge of the Web, and I'm your host, Erin Sparks. Every week, we bring you amazing guests to talk about digital marketing news and trending tactics. We unpack a key marketing tool or topic for our digital marketing audience. And whether you're part of an agency or a freelancer or part of a firm, this show is for you. So be sure to check out all the recent shows over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Edge of the Web is brought to you by Site Strategics, the title sponsor of the show. We're pioneers in the agile digital marketing space. Our core specialties are SEO, SEM, social media, conversion rate optimization, and the omni-channel media marketing. Agile marketing, results-based marketing that actually works. If you're interested in what we can do for you, give us a call at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932. Just wanted to let you know who's going to be coming up on the show in the next few episodes. We're going to be talking to Christina Azarenko as well as Darren Shaw, talking about SEO and local SEO. Can't get enough of that, right? And, check out the recent shows here. Just recently, Bill Slosky and Mark Traphagen, as well as the J.D. Prater and Joe Martinez duo show. They had a great time on the show. If you're interested in being part of the ensemble of guests that Edge of the Web have been able to interview, just send us a note over at info@edgeofthewebradio.com. Set your reminders on YouTube to get notified when we post those videos as well. Hey, join the newsletter. Who knew we had one? I haven't been doing my job. We have a newsletter on Edge of the Web Radio that we send out each and every week, covering the news of the week as well as our interview that we've had that week, as well as a nugget or two of pro tools or some information about the show or Site Strategics by and large. So if you want to jump in and find out what we can provide you on a weekly basis in your inbox, just text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, or simply go over to edgeofthewebradio.com and you can sign up right there at the top of the page. So join the Edge community so you can actually get digital nuggets of gold coming your way each and every week. Make sure you check out the weekly news podcast we do separate from the interview podcast, covering the most recent digital marketing news and Google updates. We're dropping it every Tuesday, so they can help you navigate your week in digital marketing. We're continuing with our co-host and compadre, Morty Oberstein, head of communications over at SEMrush, jumping in there. We're cutting out the best information for you on a weekly basis. So now, with all of that underway, let's meet this week's industry expert. You know I love tools, much to my detriment. I mean, there's so many fantastic tools in the SEO space. It's exciting to see the new things that are on the horizon. So it's Christmas in August, everyone. We have a list of almost all the SEO tools here today. Let me introduce you to Olga Zarzeczna, founder of SEO Slide, SEO consultant. She's also a senior technical SEO, SEO auditor, and SEO geek. Again, self-proclaimed SEO geek. Olga is a technical SEO specialist working with both huge brands and small to medium-sized websites. She specializes in doing advanced technical SEO audits that often take 20 to 40 hours to do. And you're going to do that if you're going to do that right. She cooperates with one of the biggest SEO agencies in Europe and is also responsible for the entire SEO auditing process of that organization. She teaches others to do SEO auditing and performs in-depth technical SEO audits for some of their biggest clients. Since 2012, she's actually been constantly in the SEO loop, learning, studying, experimenting, building, testing, and growing, analyzing, and repeating this process. So she's got a fantastic process. She's also a featured speaker at the SEO Mastery Summit. So here's what's really interesting, and I wanted to bring her on here because She's a newcomer to the field here, although she's been doing SEO for a long time as a company, as a influencer. She's jumping into the space. She's provided an incredible amount of information on her website, collections of the best tools in the industries, and her company is skyrocketing in rank. And her company didn't exist online before August 2020. So I came across her site as I was doing research for Core Web Vitals and auditing Core Web Vitals, and she has a great process laid out to do that. Yes, another page on our website. It's very timely as well, as we were doing Core Web Vitals process for our own organization. So we're going to dig into that aspect as well, success in the SEO industry. So without further ado, Olga, welcome to The Edge.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here, especially since I have been listening to your show for a very long time. So this is a great honor to be here.
Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you so much. That's very humbling. And I'm sorry that you've had to actually experience our show over the years, because we've gotten better.
Yeah, it's getting better and better with every episode.
I appreciate it. So we do appreciate someone who's listened to the show and really experienced our growth with us, and some of the great thought leaders and influencers in digital marketing, and especially SEO specialists. So you are actually of their ilk, Olga, and I wanted to bring that square up to you here, because what you're doing right now in your own business is fantastic, but you're also teaching a lot of people about best SEO tools. So can I actually get your kind of how you came into the SEO industry from your own words?
Definitely. So I started in 2012. I started from simply experimenting with creating websites just to put AdSense on them and maybe some affiliate links. I heard about a thing called SEO and that you can learn some money from it. Mm-hmm. So I took a bunch of courses and I started to create websites, but they were mostly very low quality websites, and I didn't really even put my name on them, but the sites kind of took off and I started to earn some money from them. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that this really works and that this is something I want to do, especially that I was a computer geek since like forever. So it took me about 2 years of experimentation and creating those sites before I applied for a job as a junior SEO. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that the Google Analytics reports that I showed the agency were enough for them to hire me. Mm-hmm. And that's basically how it all started. I learned a ton at the agency. Then I was a head of SEO in an in-house SEO in a company for some time as well. And since I guess 2015, I have been mostly doing SEO auditing and getting, I think, better and better at this. This kind of, after a few years in the SEO, I realized that technical SEO and especially the auditing process is my part of SEO. Mm-hmm.
And it's a critical part. It truly is. And there are so many scenarios in which we've seen SEO agencies not take the audit nearly as seriously as they should. And it's more of a, okay, we'll just run a tool on it, and then we'll act upon that. And the effort is really in the tactical space, not the audit space. The audit is it's the strategy document. But it's not just strategy. It's also almost like a physician's tool, right? You're assessing the patient. You're analyzing baselines. You're understanding what ails the patient, and even putting together almost like a coaching plan of what they need to do to be able to rectify some of the things that they have working against them. Would you agree?
Definitely. That's definitely how I approach SEO auditing. And so I was doing all of those audits for the agency, and at some point I decided that maybe it's time to create a site in which I will be myself, in which I will not hide behind some affiliate brands or something like this. And I decided to create SEO Sly and simply start sharing the things I learn, the things I do, the things I experience in everyday in everyday work, because I work with a lot of different sites on a weekly basis, a lot of different cases, weird cases, interesting cases, fascinating cases. And I just thought that maybe it's time to kind of start sharing what I learn and see if others like it or not. And it turned out that other people like what I'm sharing. So
absolutely,
this is an ideal place for me to be.
And you do actually sound like a physician as you're talking about different unique cases. I mean, you won't believe the infection that we saw on this one.
Definitely.
So,
That's
I mean,
how I feel.
it is very similar to a physician's assessment and prognosis of issues. Now, the key thing about technical SEO audits is there are a massive amount of SaaS web-based tools that are out there, and we're blessed as an industry to be able to have seen such a growth of this technology and investment in this knowledge base where, I mean, 15, 20 years ago, we had desktop clients crawling. I can't tell you how many times Google was blocking our IP out of our office because we queried too much on a particular IP, and all of a sudden, we got to wait for a little while because we just hit the spam filter, right? The industry has evolved so much, and there's so many great thought leaders in this space. However, because there's such a growth, and a lot of these tools have such a comprehensive scope that it can create a bit of laziness on the side of the SEO technician. And I don't say this with any particular inference to any one particular agency or individual out there, but you can kind of mail it in. You can kind of run an audit, and because the tools are comprehensive in their reporting, it gives you almost everything that you need without doing some deep diving and analysis, which is really where the physician mentality comes in. Because what you see on the surface sometimes is not what you see as you start to unpack the different factors of SEO. Can you give us some insight about that and the potential reliance on maybe one tool too much?
Yeah, definitely. So my approach to this is that I have created kind of my own unique process of the things that I check, and I use all those tools to check those things that I have in my process. Mm-hmm. It is not the vice versa that I run the audit and I am looking at what the tool told me, and based on that I create the list. It is the other way around.
Very good.
So, and in this way, I always, when I do my in-depth SEO audit, I always use a bunch of tools. I don't rely only on one, so that I can sometimes look at specific issue from different angles, or maybe find something that I wouldn't have found without, for instance, in Screaming Frog, and I can find something else if I analyze what Sitebulb is telling me, or SEMrush site audit. So I usually use at least 5, 6, maybe even more tools when I do an SEO audit.
Yep.
I have created a list of like 65 SEO audit tools, and many of those tools are simply the free tools that contain some specific feature that is, for instance, part of a premium tool like Sitebulb or SEMrush site audit. So, for instance, if someone does not have access to all those premium tools, they can use some of those other tools to check specific things. So this was my idea behind creating this list, because of course it is not possible to audit a site and use 65 tools. It is possible, but it would take ages.
So these tools complement each other and give you almost like a second opinion. Keeping the physician's analogy all the way through here is what I see on regarding this particular technical SEO issue. Can I confirm it over here on this one? Because some of the spidering techniques and some of the factors that these tools review, they don't weigh the same towards the entire summer.
Definitely.
And some of them, they just don't look at everything. So I do want to let everybody know that Olga actually pushed out a technical audit checklist of 188 points to check in the technical audit. You also gave a smaller SEO audit step by step, about 60 different steps to look at. So this is the point here, everybody, is that Olga's not just positioning herself as, yes, you have the experience and you have developed process over time. You're actually sharing that process to the nth degree, and that's pretty bold, but it's also pretty risky, because inside of the SEO community, it's rife with challenge. It's rife with pushback because, well, you don't do this right. This is the way you should do it out there. So there's a lot of nitpicking in our industry, unfortunately. So I want to get into the SEO tools here, but I do want to come back to what you've experienced in this industry as we roll through that. But first and foremost, we want our listeners to actually jump in as you're listening to this show. Jump into the website over there. So it's SEO Sly, SEOSLY, and the URL that we want you to have a look at, first and foremost, is SEO-Sly.com/SEO-Audit-Tools. All right, there's your URL, and it's going to be in the show notes in the show page here. Jacob's got it on screen as well. So what I want to go through is not every bloody tool, although we could. It would be so much fun, everybody. We could do it in like 8 hours, right?
And I think that's your first 8-part series.
I think it is. By the way, Olga, where are you hailing from right now?
I am in Poland. I come from Poland, and and I have a brother in the US, so I kind of am close to the US, and I'm even probably coming to the US soon. So
very cool, very cool. So she's giving up her evening to be able to walk through the SEO list. So I wouldn't want to abuse her time here. So first and foremost, before anything else, what factors may have contributed to some tools not making this list? Is there anything that you didn't want part of this comprehensive list?
So there were some tools that I have been testing, and really I wanted to get them to this list, but for instance, some of them were a little bit buggy. So, and if I really don't think that this tool can really give us what we want, then I don't want to put it in this list. So I tested a bunch of tools that kind of really had problems getting this data. There were simply some bugs in them.
Yep.
To be honest, they were not, I think, complete products.
Understood. So, and that was good, because at the same time, if you're leaning into these tools, you want to be able to make sure that people are experiencing the best in the industry. There are free and paid tools on this list, but there was no bias on this. You have not received any compensation from any organization regarding this, right? I knew that, but I wanted to make sure everybody also knew this as well. Okay, so
I'm not sure if there are affiliate links in this post. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think there aren't.
That's fine, and you do have some ads in there. It doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that nobody's throwing a little bit of money to get them to the top of the list. That's not what's happening here. So I reviewed your tool list, and they fit into some criteria buckets, for lack of a better description. There's Google SEO Tools, which is actually a separate page, but it did actually make its way onto the audit tools. And there's also a lot of Chrome extensions, which you actually have a dedicated page to Chrome extensions. And we're actually going to get to that in the second episode. Yeah, I'm like a kid in the candy store. I really, really am, because this is going to, you don't realize this is going to bog down not only my cash flow here, but it's going to bog down my resources of my Chrome browser, because I'm going to start adding extension after extension. It's just going to, my weekend's done. Okay. All right.
There is a disclaimer at this SEO Chrome extensions post that you shouldn't test all of them at once.
Not for the faint of heart. Yeah, you shouldn't. So you've got kind of these buckets of categories here. Some of the audit tools are best standards, kind of the errors, warnings, and notices type of auditing tools. You've got structure tools there. You've got link internal link checking tools and external link checking tools. You also have JavaScript rendering, log analyzers, extensions, validators, and volatility reports. So we're going to actually kind of walk through a number of these different areas as time permits in our segment. And what I thought would be fun is I'd like to go through each group, kind of pick a big gun, for lack of a better description. Or let's keep the analogy going with a physician. Your best scalpel, right?
Okay.
Get some insight from you, as well as maybe something that we here at Site Strategics likes, or we found that maybe didn't make it to the list. There's not many at all, but kind of get your take on some of the favorites out of your list. You game for that?
Sure.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to have Jacob actually kind of follow along and go full screen sometimes on our YouTube, and you can follow along at home as you're listening. Just don't do it while you're driving, because this list and page is rather long, but please follow along as we're talking about these different pages. So, 65 audit tools, and she's vetted them all out. She also has screenshots as well as the links going to these tools. So first, you do reference some of the free Google tools, and it's referenced in another page. We'll get to that here shortly. But at the top, the best standard, the error warning notices type of tool set here. If you go down to first on our list is going to be Screaming Frog. It's the top of the list, and it's probably, like you said, the most popular SEO auditing tool out there. We're a huge fan of Screaming Frog, and we are bound and determined to get the founder on our show here soon. They went through a massive COVID breakout in the UK, so we had to postpone some. But we're going to get Dan back on the show here. Screaming Frog at the top. What's your take on Screaming Frog, and how much of a percentage is Screaming Frog inside of your SEO audit process?
So to be honest, I always use Screaming Frog and both SiteBulb for every audit. Yep. So I always start with crawling the site with both of those tools, and why the tools are crawling the site. I am doing kind of the manual review. I am writing down the goals behind this audit. Why I'm doing this audit? Is it because I want to produce a document? I guess it is not the right reason. It is usually because I want to change something, help. For instance, I want to find out the reason why the traffic is going down,
right?
Whether it is something technical or not. So I use both of them, and I would say 50% for SiteBulb and 50% for Screaming Frog, really.
Absolutely. Well, they're both, and that was my next one to the top of the list here, SiteBulb. They're both incredibly valuable, and they're both evolving very, very quickly. Screaming Frog has had page insights for the longest time, page speed API connection. They got a lot of additional API connections to Hrefs and Moz and what have you.
Yeah.
But they're really opening up content analysis. They've got a good deal of the core web vitals taken care of. So you can literally, and it's one of the only audit tools, including SiteBulb, that you can actually see your entire site at the core web vital level, page by page by page by page. That's intense. That gives us a full picture of when you change something globally, how that affects every one of the different pages on the website, as opposed to what SEMrush is doing. They're doing a core sampling of 10 pages, your top kind of template pages, and they're evolving their tool set as well. But that was one of the key wins that I saw Screaming Frog do, and SiteBulb. Every time I'm loading up that platform, I'm seeing a new update.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
It's great because it's like, it's like opening up a Christmas package. All right.
Exactly.
What did they do now?
Every time I do an audit, yeah. And what I like about,
Okay, keep on going. That's what you like?
And what I like about SiteBulb very much is that they have all of those explanations. And to be honest, I very often click on that explanation and read the whole article. And even though I think I am quite experienced and I have read a ton of things about SEO, I sometimes actually learn new things or some new pro SEO tips from there. So this is an advantage of Sidebulb over Screaming Frog that it explains a lot of things.
Absolutely.
You need to know how to read Screaming Frog.
Yeah, you do. I mean, yeah, there's no helpful wiki there. But in combination, you can actually see what the difference is there. There's still really good spidering. You can change your agent. You can change so many throttle points that you want to digest. And on top of that, they're both Bulb can actually run scheduled audits as well. So you're seeing continual improvement. And Screaming Frog is database run. You can opt for database run, so you can actually pull up crawls. They also have a really cool comparison tool of one audit against another audit. And sorry, just geeking out on those tools right there. SEMrush site audit is a third on the list that really is one of our core competencies here over at Site Strategics. What are your thoughts about that auditing tool?
So I like this very much as well, and this is almost always the tool I use when I'm auditing the site. So it is kind of the third crawler.
Yep.
For me, I like it because it also has those tips and read more links. I'm kind of very hungry for SEO knowledge, and I always, when I'm auditing the site, I always want to learn something new, something I didn't know, and this also gives me this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And SEMrush is a web-based crawler, so it kind of runs automatically. You can just similar to Ahrefs crawler. So it is if you are doing SEO for the site on a regular basis, this is not a one-time audit. It is good to have it set up to kind of control the things and alert you. Although you need to know how to read those alerts and those warnings, because sometimes the tool is telling you that there is some critical error running on the site. While if you apply your SEO common sense, it turns out that this is not a problem, really. This is nothing to worry about.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm actually going to park us for a second, because reading an SEO audit takes that contextual knowledge. You just can't read a report, read the numbers. Oh my gosh, I've got 1,285 uncompressed JavaScripts. What in the world am I going to do? No, you look at it, you unpack it, they give the URLs, it's one bloody file, right?
Yeah.
Affect the change, and that all goes away. So you got to know how to read it. You have to have that common sense. And that gets back to the tools, and they're constantly evolving how they're reporting to you. But you have to almost be a physician of the tool itself to know the signals that the tool's sending from you, the other signal that the tool's sending from you, and then be able to boil that down to an actual effort or prognosis, right?
Definitely.
All right, so we were talking about these comprehensive tools. Now we're going to move into any other. Oh, one other one we didn't come across, Jet Octopus. Can you tell us real quick about that?
So this is a tool I have started testing very recently. This is quite a similar web-based crawler. It also crawls the site, reports on status codes, 404s, things like that. It is kind of an online, we can say, web-based version of Screaming Frog, maybe something similar to SEMrush site audit. So something like this. I also like it very much, and it also has a log file analysis tool. So similar to the one that Screaming Frog has. So if you have your log files, you can just upload them and the tool will analyze them for you. You don't need to torment yourself using Excel.
And you can also automatically sync some of these tools with an FTP control, so they can actually batch and pull those in.
Yeah.
I guarantee my operations manager, his ears are burning right now, because he's trying to keep our budget regularly down, and I'm looking at Jet Octopus, and I want to go play with that. All right, so moving on to go ahead.
I'm actually planning on creating. I have just started creating an in-depth guide on how to audit your site with Jet Octopus, to be honest. This is something.
All right. So
that's coming next week.
Fantastic. See, it's perfect timing.
I think what Erin really needs is a guide on how to not buy every tool
Yes.
that comes in front of him.
Yes, I
Can
do.
you write that guide, please?
I need that guide as well.
Oh, no.
see, kindred spirits here. All right, so this is a challenge here, but I mean, again, the point is that no one tool does anything comprehensively, and these tools have different takes on something that you may be seeing on another website. On-crawl as a sidebar is unique in that space because of the content depth and some of the semantic analysis that it's actually doing. And that's a whole another discussion right there. But let's stay inside of structure. So we moved from these comprehensive tools. Now we're actually looking at structure. Now, Screaming Frog is still in that space to be able to analyze structure, inlinks, to taxonomy, not ontology, right? But we're getting real close to that. But talk to me about NetSpeak. I haven't come across that one as it comes across of site structure analysis.
So this is yet another crawler that it is useful for like checking, again, status codes, whether there are 404s, whether there are redirects. It is a bit, I would say, simpler. It does not offer such a great variety of options. So many of those tools, I listed them. Many of them overlap, especially the crawlers. I listed them because it is kind of a nice, I would say, intellectual exercise to go through each of these tools and run the crawl and see what's there. This is it really I think will help many less advanced SEOs learn the whole process of auditing, how those tools look like, even though in reality you just need like two, probably the 2 or 3 mainstream ones, the most popular ones.
No, that's not what I'm hearing. No, we need them all. We need them all now.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Is Erin the Veruca Salt of SEO tools?
Exactly. I'm the Veruca Salt of SEO tools. I want my tools. I want them now. All right. I'm not that bad. I truly am not. But whenever I come across a new one, it's always my first thing goes to what are they doing uniquely? Right? Because if this tool evolved and is in the ecosystem analysis tools, then there's got to be something unique that's doing as opposed to others. For example, Deep Crawl. Deep Crawl is another structural analysis tool. And when it gets down to technical SEO, I think that Deep Crawl actually gives so much more than most of the technical assessment tools. And you may have a different opinion, but there's a depth, no pun intended, of analysis that it does on a regular basis that not only boils up some key elements that are immediately need to be attended to, but it has a depth of structural analysis and technical SEO analysis that's not content, not thin content. It gets into some more crevices than I've seen with most tools. Would you agree or disagree there? Yeah,
I definitely agree. I haven't worked with Deep Crawl for some time, but I used to use that tool for the analysis of really huge sites, for instance, for the sites of the brands of Procter & Gamble. And yeah, this was the tool to go right back then.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I definitely agree.
This is enterprise level analysis, and we've met a number of Deep Crawl reps in the different trade meetings that we've had over the years, and it's great to be able to see what you can really see at a 1,000,000-page analysis.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
As opposed to trying to tax some other these tools to that degree. Screaming Frog kind of chokes on you if you're actually trying to take on that much.
It depends. It depends on the capabilities of your computer and of course the site. But sometimes it is just enough to crawl the sample like 10%, and very often you can kind of get the idea of some main issues, but not always. Sometimes,
absolutely. Now,
sometimes you need deep crawl. Okay.
So we recommend it, but I mean, it's not for the faint of heart because I mean, you need to know what you're doing in that space to get the full appreciation of it. All right. Pivoting around, Ahrefs also has a really good crawler, a really good, and they've really evolved its platform over the last few years. The Webmasters Tools is free. But they also have some deeper functionality at a paid level. And we're always a big fan of Ahrefs. What are your thoughts about their website analysis tool?
So I'm using this one as well. I'm using this for the monitoring purposes, to be honest, so that I run a crawl every week and I kind of take a look at what's going on there. For instance, I had some issues with my server last month, and eventually I moved to a different server. But it was Ahrefs that notified me that there was that I'm getting a lot of slow pages. Yep. And when I recently take a look at that, after moving to the server, this speed chart kind of improved dramatically, went down dramatically. So I think that for this monitoring and getting to know whether something is happening, whether the site is having some problems, then I think it is great to have Ahrefs and their free webmaster tools.
Absolutely. And they just rolled that free tool out here about 6 months ago. So it's a great offering to the SEO community. All right, I'm going to shift gears from structure analysis and server speed and performance. We're going to move into link analysis. Then we have internal and we have external. I'm going to name a few things that caught my eye, and maybe you can contribute there. Check my links. That's at a per page level, right?
Yeah.
So what's that do for us?
So Check My Links is a Chrome extension that will quickly show you whether there are broken links on the site. You just click on it, and if something is green, then this is an okay link, working link. If something is red, then of course there are some problems. So this is great for checking the site like on a per page basis. So you just want to check a few pages, but if you want to check the entire site, then you will probably need a crawler to do that.
Right. So it's that on-page reference if you're actually dialing in a particular page to be able to do any type of cleanup. What are your thoughts about maybe the link redirect trace or link miner? There's other extensions I think that were also interesting to me.
So a link redirect trace is the plugin that I'm using all the time. This is, again, it is great for checking on page, to checking on a per page basis how the page is behaving. So if I, for instance, click on a given link, then I can see immediately in this plugin that this link has been redirected, and I don't need to check it in the code. But again, if I want to check the entire site, I would have to do a crawl.
All right. So we're shifting from holistic, the entire site audit, over to individual pages and doing surgery on those pages, again, with the physician's analysis here. So have a look at those extensions. Now let's shift over to, real quick, JavaScript rendering. So why is that important as you're doing your SEO analysis?
This is important because if there are some real issues, if the rendered HTML differs a lot from the source HTML, or if there are the most important links, for instance, aren't in the rendered HTML, then it means that Googlebot may not be able to see those links.
Very good. Yep.
Maybe to index the pages that are linked from there, or maybe is not able to access the site in the way that we want it to access to see specific types of content, parts of content. So generally what we see in the rendered HTML should be the same as what is in the source code regarding content. So that's why we have those, for instance, this rendertron tool. You just enter the site, click render, and if what you see after rendering is similar, is the same, then it is okay. But again, this is checking just one page.
But you also see that there are some global issues as you're checking one page, because header
Usually.
issue. Yeah. There was something that was really cool, the view rendered source page extension. Be able to look at that, and it renders the raw, then the rendered, and actually provides you the difference and compares, so you can actually click through and see the comparison of the raw versus rendered. That's really, really, I mean, just the visual of that is fantastic, because you can see what's happening, and so many times you're also dealing with latency on JavaScript render, or particular timing on things. You're able to see not the sequence of events, but you can certainly see what's different there, and then try to track down why it's not at the rendered state, right?
Yeah, and you can do the same, basically the same in Screaming Frog. You can also render JavaScript and then compare one-to-one each and every web page on the site, and compare the rendered and the source code, and the tool will even take screenshots for you. So
very cool.
That's very useful.
Very cool. All right, last car on the train here before we jump is a focus on log analyzers. You pull that into the mix of some of these audit tools. Jet Octopus, you mentioned, as has a log analyzer. SEMrush has a log analyzer. OnCrawl has a log analyzer. Why is it so important to actually analyze the logs and not just focus on the crawl?
Because if you analyze the logs, then you can get you will have the whole picture of what bots, what crawlers are visiting the site, on what pages they actually are visiting. Maybe the crawl budget is being wasted on some 404 pages, and you even don't know that how the crawlers crawl the site. May sometimes be different from what you see after you crawl the site. So you manually crawl the site with, for instance, Screaming Frog, and this will also show you, for instance, different search engine crawlers, what they are doing. But if you are just interested in Google and what Google is doing, and for instance you don't have access to those those logs, because for instance your client doesn't want to give you access or doesn't have the access, then you can use Google Search Console crawl stats, which is also quite good, and will give you more or less the idea of what's going on regarding Google crawling the site, and what the crawler is actually seeing and encountering on the site.
Understood. And it's very important to understand the difference there. So I've got more to talk about here in this list, but to just drop a quick couple of points here, in your audit tool, you also threw out some validators, some XML sitemap validators, and W3C, World Wide Web Consortium, HTML5, and whatnot validators. Those are incredibly important. And we can't forget ADA compliance scoring as well, if you really go the full distance of the audit. But you also threw some sensors in there as well. Penguin is one that has been around for a while. What I'm talking about here are sensors plus algorithm update overlays on Google analytic performance. Penguin is very, very cool because you can sync up to your Google Analytics property, and it's got all the different algorithms, confirmed and unconfirmed, as well as a lot of different types of algorithm changes. And you can actually see your site's performance there. How does that work into your SEO audit if you're doing an actual document?
So if I'm auditing them, I always start with analyzing the visibility of the site, what I see actually in Google Analytics and in Google Search Console. Then I take a look at what's going on regarding the updates, and I overlay, and I'm comparing if there was some spike or some drop. I am checking what date was it on, and then I usually sometimes have an answer right away. What was the cause? But sometimes it is a technical thing or something that requires a lot of my in-depth SEO analysis.
Very good. And there's another one out there, Algoroo, as another kind of a algorithm core update, just algorithm
SEO
change.
weather.
Yep, SEO weather.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you also have website penalty indicator as another tool. Tell us about that real quick.
So this one can also help you decide whether a traffic drop is caused by a possible update. So it shows you the timeline of updates and the fluctuations, and you can compare it to what's happening on the site. So if you use all of those tools and if you analyze the Google Analytics in depth, then you can usually pretty easily determine whether it was Google update or something else. Or you can simply compare the organic traffic from Google and Bing. And usually if the traffic trend is similar, then it probably isn't the Google update.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the things you can do to kind of make sure.
Very good. In the same pack, you've got the sensors as well, SEMrush, Mozcast, and one I wanted to throw in there, we talked about this right before the show, was Rank Ranger, and being able to see not only the volatility on a particular day, pardon me, but also you can see, and this is more general, it's not specific to a particular site. The SEMrush sensor does tie into your particular site if you have your keywords being managed and you've got the visibility area fleshed out. You can actually see what's happening as the algorithm changes start happening. You can see how volatile your client is. Are there any other tools that provide us that type of individual domain volatility review?
Let me think. I think I have beaten this one to death, to be honest. I always rely on Google tools the most.
Yep.
The data I have from Google. This is kind of my basis always.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I've gone the distance on the audit. What I really want to do on our next segment here is talk about what you've experienced as an SEO business startup here. But we do truly appreciate the in-depth knowledge that you brought to the table with this post, as well as how you're sharing the information out amongst the annals inside of social. So from all of us from the SEO community, we truly do appreciate that. Any final thoughts on the SEO process? Because we really didn't even unpack how you do what you do. But for people that are getting started in the SEO process, what would be some audit process? What would be some great guidance?
So I think I would start with reading all of the explanations that Sitebulb has on their website. They have the section called Hints, and they talk about each and every possible technical and not technical SEO issue. And I would start from there, just reading all of those possible issues, and then maybe using my own or someone else's process and simply trying to go through each of those steps. And for instance, I have one point that tells me to check whether there are some files in the robots.txt that shouldn't be there. So simply you need to go to robots.txt and see what's there. And if you don't know, you can Google robots.txt and you will see a lot of guides from Google or even the ones on Sitebulb, as I mentioned. So I would just do and read and do. And this is kind of the way to get around this, I think.
Absolutely. The thing is about SEO audits is that, and we referenced this analogy last podcast, is that it's as if you're a physician looking at a patient, and the physician has to know how to read the patient and read the tools that are analyzing the patient, and be able to utilize a number of different tools to get second opinions is also very important. You just can't, as an SEO, rely on one tool, because for whatever reason, you may actually have a particular piece of the analysis that's a bit immature on that tool that another tool has actually really leveraged into a unique differentiator in the marketplace. So here at Site Strategics, anybody who knows us and knows me personally, I am a tool hoarder because of that very thing. I want to be able to see the client or the patient from a number of different vantage points. So we went through SEO tools in our last show, and we certainly didn't cover everything that was in your site, but you also had a number of other pages out there regarding Google SEO tools as well as Chrome extensions. But I wanted to make sure that we captured this particular point of interest first. So let's talk about your business for a second and talk about your strategy and how you actually kind of focused on. You've been studying SEO for a long time. You've worked with a number of companies. What spurred you to actually start your own business?
So to be honest, it all started from, starting from listening to SEO podcasts. At some point, I kind of became addicted to listening to podcasts, to SEO podcasts. I was listening to them all the time while I was driving, running, walking my dog. And finally, it dawned on me that maybe I should create my own website about SEO and really put myself out there. Because so far I had been creating only the sites, kind of anonymous, maybe affiliate ad sites that I was really hiding myself. But maybe I thought it is time to go out and talk about what I really know the best, because it is SEO that I specialize in, and I think it is the best way to build your authority, trust, by sharing what you really are passionate about and what you really know a lot about. So I thought, why not do this? So in June, it was June last year, I registered the domain. I was very happy to find the domain with SEO in there to be free. So I immediately registered it and started working on the site, and I made it indexable in August last year. So it's been a year exactly since.
That's amazing. All right. So what does the SLY mean in SEO SLY?
So at first, I wanted to be like SEO SLY, so something like seriously about SEO. But then gotcha. I changed it into SLY, so maybe to be as sly as a fox when it comes to SEO. And I like this one better. Go.
That's a good analogy. Very good. Very good. All right. So you rolled out this site. So you had already worked on a number of pages, but what was unique about your strategy on building this site? Give us an idea of the kind of content that you rolled out there.
Yeah. So once I set up the site, I did a thorough keyword research, and I kind of find some keywords that I think that I thought may be doable, winnable for me, even though this was a brand new site. And I knew that I have knowledge about those topics. So I started creating in-depth guides. I have those perfectionist tendencies. And if I start doing something, sometimes it can take me even weeks to complete. And this is how I started creating those guides. And many of them turned out to be like 10,000 words long. And I kept adding screenshots, other things, and making them better and optimizing them. And it was kind of a bit crazy and obsessive, but I started to simply create those guides, make them, publish them. And after some time, I thought that maybe I will create a Twitter account. That I had a Twitter account, but it was completely inactive for years. So I shared one of those guides on Twitter, and somehow someone noticed this guide and they reshared it. And then I got a ton of traffic, and then I got a ton of followers. And starting from that, it was a little bit like a snowball effect. And the rankings really I started to gain rankings quite quickly. I think in December, I was already ranking for some keywords relatively high. I wasn't expecting that at all. I was ready to wait for like 3 years and create something and have nothing in return. But it turned out that I don't need 3 years.
It didn't work out that way, did it?
Yeah.
So let's just share with the audience some of the content that you rolled out here. I mean, we're talking about just recent content. how to perform an SEO audit using Google Search Console, 79 best Chrome extensions for SEO that we're going to talk about here in a minute. Google SEO Tools, a list of 50 SEO tools from Google, right? And Google Analytics for basic. Google Analytics 4 basic SEO guide. Sorry. 15 ways to check why your site's traffic may be down. 65 tools for your SEO audit. You're giving away not a blog. You're not doing cursory concepts. You are spending a lot of time, and an investment to this magnitude pays off in dividends. And that's the key concept that I wanted to get across here. You're right. You're reading 10,000 words easy. You're also giving screenshots and links to these properties. You're creating a useful guide, a utility of sorts that absolutely earns bookmarkable link stripes, right? So how's your link building been? You really haven't been doing any yet, right?
No, I haven't. I was thinking about it. I was looking for some options, but I just thought that maybe I will start from creating as much content as I can, because I don't think Google would treat it as natural if I just created a bunch of links to a site that has no visibility, no traffic.
Sure.
I don't think this would make sense. But it turned out that I really don't have to do that, because once some of those pieces went viral, I got links from Maz, from Barry Schwartz,
Yep.
something I wouldn't even dreamed of. So I didn't need to, and I hope I will not have to, because to be honest, I don't like building links. I don't like this process. I don't like buying links. This is not my area of expertise at all. So maybe we'll see, my site will be just okay without that, because it is getting, I guess 10 links a day. At this point, maybe even more, sometimes 20 links a day.
That's amazing. All right, so I'm going to stop you right there, because you're doing it the way you're supposed to do it. Links should never be sought after. Links you should gather them.
Earn.
You should be earning them as you give away content, right? So that's what you're doing right here. And this is what I really wanted to get across is, I mean, look, some of the additional topics. You get 188 steps for a technical SEO audit. Okay. That's incredible. And the amount of hours poured into a page like that, it's immediately understood as soon as you look at the content. In fact, you came across my radar whenever I was doing core web vital audit research, because we're building our process over here, right? So came across your site, and lo and behold, you've got, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 steps in that. And it was very well constructed. And on top of that, I think you had some sort of lead gen there that could actually dump that right into my email box or something like that. So you had a tear sheet that actually was the entire document right there for my disposal. Well done, but you've invested time. And this is what we want to get across to our listeners, is that to earn links, you've got to put the time in. You've got to put the metal in there, because your online audience can sniff out spam. They can see something spun, and if it's not worthwhile to them, right? There's nowhere that this is going to actually build value online. Your online credit score will not go up. But if you actually focus and actually spend the time, not only are you going to earn those links, you're going to earn the ranks, and on top of it, I mean, just think from a pagination ranking side of things, Google's paying attention to your page, your site, with a good deal of intent, because it's not tepid in the content. It's deep content, tomes of content that are around entities, concepts. How many featured snippets do you have? Any idea of that? Plus, people also ask questions. Are you in that space right now?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how many exactly, but it's been kind of skyrocketing recently.
Yeah, exactly.
I have the featured snippet for, I guess, largest contentful paint, and it is above Google. So this is kind of, maybe it's going to change. Well, after some update.
The thing, it won't.
It's nice.
I tell you, it won't, because it's authentic content, it's real content, it's bookmarkable content, and you also go back and update your content as well. So you're freshening it up, which is exactly the process that you need to do. All right. So that said, how are you keeping yourself fresh and experienced in the SEO space, because you just got here, you're creating a new site, you're certainly dialing into key concepts that we're all searching about right now. How are you keeping your knowledge sharp in this industry?
So I'm trying to divide my time, my work time, into the time that I do audits, that I take care of my clients. And then there is about 25% that I spend on creating content on SEO Fly, and about, I guess, 25% which I spend learning. And this I do through, I binge watch Google SEO office hours.
Okay.
I of course listen to a ton of different SEO podcasts, and Edge of the Web being my favorite, of course.
Aw, see. She didn't need to say that, but thank you.
I'm also quite crazy about reading Google documentation and trying to find things there. For instance, when I was creating the guide on Google on Core Web Vitals, I studied the entire Google documentation, took notes, and it was a crazy process, but it gave me a lot of understanding of Core Web Vitals. So I try to read, watch, and listen to everything that other prominent SEOs are sharing, as well as what Google is sharing, doing. And it takes me a lot of time. I guess if 2-3 hours every day are spent in some way that I can learn SEO.
Wow.
So I think this is the only way. And I started my own SEO newsletter, and one of the reasons I started it because I wanted to be up to date, to have to check the news, to read what's going on the Barry Schwartz sites and
exactly.
and other
All right,
blogs.
you tripped across that live wire there. Exactly, is that if you turn yourself into a purveyor of information, you are forcing yourself into a constant knowledge retrieval, right?
Yeah. Definitely, and that's what I also do for the agency that I cooperate with, and I am basically sending them the news and the tips of the week, and I'm doing it for the other agency that they cooperate with. So I am kind of the news spreader for many people.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, because you're actually doing the work, and you're also curating it, processing it, and putting it for the advantage of others, and you're getting rewarded for that. So you're doing the good job here. What key points would you like to share with others that may want to follow in your footsteps there?
So I would definitely start with creating a plan of creating a blog and being very consistent with it. So at first I just decided that I need to do one blog post a week. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't manage to put this blog post, but it needs to be consistent. So we need to have the plan, and you need to realize it, because you need to move forward. At least if you don't have time to create a new blog post, you can, for instance, you can update the existing one. But if you have some knowledge, you need to share it, and you need to be very, very generous with that. And you need to go very in depth, because you can, for instance, when I was reading some of the guides, many of them, I'm not talking about any specific guides, were very general. They were just touching upon some concepts. Right. And I took those concepts and kind of dive very deep into them, provided examples, added my own screenshots, maybe added some more my insider's tips if I had ones about those specific areas, whatever. So you need to be kind of obsessed with sharing this knowledge and learning. And if you are obsessed and you are constantly learning new things, listening to new things, you will be on the right track, I believe.
Excellent. Any shout outs to people that may have been instrumental in your area of success so far? You mentioned Barry Schwartz. We always mention Barry Schwartz. I think we have some sort of mantra here, but anybody else that you wanted to give props to?
So I think that would be Lily Ray. She's been very, very kind to me, even though I still am not very popular. She was very friendly. She reshared some of my stuff. I almost fainted that, she really did that.
Very good.
And the same with Mary Haynes. I also am addicted to her podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary Haynes and Aleida Solis. She also is responsible for driving a lot of traffic to my site.
Excellent. Excellent. Those are great individuals and friends of the show, and we love the influence that they have in the SEO space. And they do very much the same thing that you're doing, is this level of in-depth analysis and knowledge share. So you're amongst good people there. All right. So that said, we certainly do want to give reference to the site, SEOsly.com. Now we want to pivot around and talk about a couple of the posts here briefly, about for the next 10 minutes here, talking about two other pages that you had there of these guys. One was Google SEO Tools, a list of 50 SEO tools from Google. And you just recently updated this, July 31st, but this thing got posted July 18th, and I guarantee this thing is ranking. So you shared this and actually gave us a kind of an index of all of the SEO tools that we have at our disposal that are free of charge for Google. So first and foremost, out of the gate, and I just grabbed a handful. Like I said, I was a kid in the candy store. A couple of them that we absolutely have to recommend our listeners, if they're not paying attention to it, they need to regularly. One is Google Search Console. I don't know if we can really explain much more about what Google Search Console does, but just get in there and dig, because it is such a huge boon for understanding performance. But there's so many sub points inside of Google Search Console, dozens of smaller tools, and you kind of rolled through them there. So again, if you're not in Google Search Console, get there quickly. But let's talk about Google Search Console Insights here for a second. That's a new rollout, right? Just recent. So let's do a quick dive into that. Give us some of your intake there.
So this is a very good tool if you, for instance, don't have a lot of time to deeply analyze what's going on, to compare what you have in Google Search Console to what you have in Google Analytics. Once you go there, you can quickly see what pieces of content are performing the best. You can quickly see the time that people are spending on those pieces, and you have like your best pieces, and maybe you can do some more optimizations on them, add more calls to actions, because you know that people are engaging with this content. So maybe you can build upon it even more. So I would say, if you don't have time to analyze deeply, if you are not a Google Analytics geek, then you should definitely take a look at Google Search Console Insights to simply learn what's going on.
It's like a cheat sheet, like a quick summary of analysis and performance and what's trending over the last 28 days. All right, let's go into Core Web Vitals report. Again, this has had some meat on the bones here over the last year or so. Why is this so important, and what can we see from that tool?
So this is part of Google Search Console, but this is also a separate tool. So I think this is the place from which you should start whenever you are analyzing Google, whenever you are analyzing Core Web Vitals, because this tool provides you field data which comes from real users and how they are actually experiencing the site. And this is what you see in Google Search Console in this Core Web Vitals report is what is taken into account when Google is ranking the site now and assessing the site in terms of Core Web Vitals. So this is not lab data, but this is the field data, and you have the field data in Google Search Console.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Interesting enough is I came across an extension here recently that actually pulls in field data via an API. You may actually mention that in Google extensions here in a second.
I will add it.
Yeah, it actually pulls into the SERP. So it actually is showing the Core Web Vitals on the SERP itself at a per domain.
Core SERP Vitals?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm using that
It's amazing. And now it's an API call, so how often you're actually pulling that data in, but it's actually placing on your SERP the actual Core Web Vitals data right there, so you can see your competitors and see what Google's seeing, as long as there's field data available.
Yeah.
All right, so sorry, I told you. We could go on forever. Mobile usability. Yeah. Let's talk about mobile usability report that it's got, and this is still in GSC, folks.
Yeah. So this one simply tells you whether the site is mobile friendly. Mm-hmm. I think it is quite difficult now to find a website that is not mobile friendly, but it is still possible.
Yep.
But for instance, if there were some changes to the site, because then this tool will also show you that if something was added to the site that broke for instance, its layout, then maybe Google Search Console may see it and report it here. So that's why I would always recommend checking that mobile usability report. Mm-hmm. And this is important because mobile usability report and Core Web Vitals report, they both need to be in the green area for the website to be classified as having those good URLs mm-hmm. in Page Experience Report in Google Search Console. So these two are taken into account for the Page Experience Report. The remaining three others, which are HTTPS, Ad Experience, and what's the third one? Security.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are not taken into account when calculating those good URLs mm-hmm. in GSC.
Very good. Very good. All right. Last thing that we want to talk from the coverage report, right, is the Google Search Console coverage report actually focuses on statuses of errors of pages for every URL on the website. Why is this so important? Errors, valid with warnings, valid, excluded. Why is this important to me from an SEO standpoint?
So you definitely need to go through these, even if you have crawled the site, because if with Screaming Frog or other crawler, you need to go through this because errors are the pages that cannot be indexed for some reasons. Valid with warnings means that there is some issue with those pages, and you need to click on that and see exactly what Google Search Console is telling you, because there are explanations why this site was classified in this specific bucket.
Right.
And those green ones are actually the number of pages that are indexed for the site. So you also want to review those to make sure that there isn't something that shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. And the same goes for excluded. Usually those are the pages that shouldn't be indexed, but sometimes something may go there that should really be indexed. So your task is to review all of those warnings, all of those errors one by one, yep. See the samples of pages provided there. And this is the information you need for each and every audit. So I usually, when I'm auditing, I'm starting with the information from Google Search Console, and then I go through the data that Screaming Frog, mm-hmm. Sitebulb, and other crawlers are giving me.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough, is that's where Google's telling you what it knows about your site, right? And
exactly.
It's not about spidering. It is, but it's the communication tool back to Google as well as you fix things, but you got to know how it's actually seeing you in the ecosystem. So much inside of Google Search Consoles, manual action reports, security issue reports, link reports. There's also the disavow tool that is exceptionally important. The crawl stats, but we're going to move out of Google Search Console, not doing it nearly enough justice. We really need to have just a dedicated GSC show here. Maybe we'll invite you back for that, because I think
I have a dedicated post on just how to audit the site with GSC only.
All right, so
So-
we're gonna have an Olga Z's series coming up here.
Yeah.
All right, so
Sounds
let's shift out of here and talk a little bit more about some of the other tools that Google provides you, like robots.text tester. That's still inside of GSE, is it not?
Yeah.
All right, so we got that
So-
mobile friendly test. What about page speed insights? That's not.
So, yeah, that's another go-to tool when it comes to SEO, any SEO audits. I would say this is, again, just like Google Search Console, this is a tool that every audit should use.
Right.
So I love this tool for its simplicity and transparency. You just enter the URL and it really shows you what's going on. It really shows you the things you need to improve. You can just take a list of the things to be improved one by one with examples, and you just have to check this, fix this, fix that. And usually it is very straightforward. If you're using WordPress, it is very easy in many cases to take care of all of it. If you're using some other CMS systems, those instructions should be relatively easy for developers as well.
Right.
So this is
And this has had a lot of focus because of Core Web Vitals, and the report has actually been evolved here recently to actually present much more focused and articulated Core Web Vitals analysis, so you can see that and be able to get that feedback. But remember, folks, is that Page Speed Insights is analyzing it as it renders the entire process, as well as JavaScript. So, as a small footnote to our future show here is, there are scenarios in which this test can be actually circumvented if there are manipulations on delay of JavaScript, and that's not what we're recommending here. That's a little bit of black hat Core Web Vitals that's starting to creep into the ecosystem here. Again, there's a bookmark for a future show here, folks. All right. So Lighthouse is the Google Chrome extension that actually ties into the page speed index insights, and you can test via desktop or mobile, but the same report, a little bit different layout. You can even change it dark or light if you want to, but it gives you the same report as well as export features as well, right?
Yeah, this is 100% lab data, so you just need to be aware that this is what you maybe only you are seeing. This is not actually what your users see.
Yes, exactly. So moving on, remove outdated content tool. Tell us about that right there.
So if we have some content on the site, but this is again part of Google Search Console.
That's right. I'm still in the GSC space. All right. So we got robots. There's so many in there. So there's robots.text. What about web?
Most of them.
Yeah. Most of them are, and that's actually good because it's centralized here. Okay, I'm going to move further out into the web.dev site. So you also have web.dev measure. Now that is truly not a GSC property.
Yeah, but this is kind of based on a Lighthouse, from what I remember as well. So this is, it is a different presentation, I would say, of the data that you have in Google PageSpeed Insights. Then you can run a test, and if you are logged into your Google account, then it will save the test, and you will be able to compare the test to other tests you did in the past.
And that's what's really important there, is that comparison. That's why I wanted to bring it up. All right, so this is not in GSC, Google Chrome Dev Tools. Now, cannot understate how valuable the dev tool is for analysis of so many things: waterfall, performance, accessibility, security issues, page experience metrics like first paint, first contentful paint, CLS, total blocking time. Is this part of your SEO audit on a regular basis?
Yeah, definitely. This is something I always do, and I also use this tool to view the site as if I was using mobile, to test different screen resolutions, to see how the site is behaving in different resolutions. And I also like this tool also allows me to see unused CSS and those lab core web vitals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Highly. And do you have a blog post about this?
Not yet. I have it in my list of tools to audit, tools to check core web vitals, but maybe I will create one.
You are going to write a book at some point in time. You realize
Who knows?
All right. A few others. Structured data testing tool. Very important to be able to validate schema on your site. Rich results test is in the same line as schema, and that's actually going to be deprecated, correct? That's no longer going to be supported.
The data structured testing tool is going to be deprecated.
Yeah. And rich results will be taking over. It's full. Yep. All the way around. So many tools. I get them tied around every once in a while. All right. What about data highlighter?
So this tool allows you to show Google what you have on the site, and Google will give you the code that is needed that you need to implement to be able to mark specific elements, entities with schema. So This is something to use if you are not maybe very proficient in schema and you cannot do it in a different way.
Right. Absolutely. There's so many on this report, on this blog post, guys, and I'm not going to do it justice here. I'll straight through a few more that you reference. Obviously, Chrome Web Vitals, Google Suspicious Site Reporter. What's the Suspicious Site Reporter?
So if you open a site and you see that maybe there are some different links to some mischievous websites, some downloads, then you can report this site, and maybe it will be filtered through Google Safe Browsing if Google really agrees with you.
Very good. There's also the Site Kit for WordPress, and that's a downloadable site, and it's a great hub to be able to connect to Google Search Console, Analytics, Page Speed, Insights, and right at your dashboard of your WordPress site. The Chrome User Experience Report is in the same vein, right, of our Core Web Vitals that we've been talking about before, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then Google Safe Browsing Check is another one.
Yeah, so this one lets you check if your site is maybe filtered through Google Safe Browsing or any other sites, because you can check that in the case of your site if you just log into Google Search Console and go to the security report. But if you want to check another site to which you don't have access to GSC, then this is the place to go.
Perfect. All right. Last leg here, I promise, and I'm going to dedicate the next 5 minutes to going after Chrome extensions. And again, we highly recommend going back to the pages that we have here. Last leg here, and we're going to actually give it to Olga here to go through some of her cherry picks of the best Chrome extensions for SEO. What do you think? What do you want to tell our audience? What should they have if they're an SEO, especially a technical SEO focused digital marketer? What should they have on their browser?
So most of them have this. This is Web Developer. I guess it is built into Chrome, but they should really use it. Because I see many people have it, but they don't really use it. And there are a lot of things that this tool can help you analyze. For instance, you can disable JavaScript, or you can use it to show alt text on images. You can use it to preview the headings on the site and tons of other things. So I recommend making the most of this built-in tool. Other than that, let me check what I have.
Yeah.
What I currently have, I don't have 79 installed at the moment.
She's got a terabyte of memory on her machine.
Other tool I always use is a simple tool from DeepCrawl, SEO indexability check, and it signalizes with a color whether the given page is indexable or whether it is canonicalized or is set to no index. And I kind of know how to read these plugins. So whenever I visit a site, I automatically see I don't have to look into the code.
No,
so this is great for such manual review. I also use detailed SEO, and there is also the similar one from Christina Azarenko.
Yep. Marketing Syrup, absolutely.
Marketing Syrup. So this one is similar, and this one also shows Core Web Vitals, from what I remember. So they are great
and schema validation.
And schema, and schema. So they're great for checking those things like metadata, titles, descriptions, schema, and other things. What I also use, let me check. There is an old text tester, but this one can be also used. Achieve this purpose can be achieved with web developer. So maybe, and one more.
Okay.
nofollow link. It is called something like this. This tool simply shows me whether a specific link is a nofollow. It kind of puts it in a different color, and I can immediately see what links are nofollowed on a specific page. So this is, again,
absolutely
quite easy to notice.
All right, though, that's what's on your browser right now. There's 79 that Olga has actually worked through, and we certainly didn't do it any justice here. A couple on our browsers over here, structured data testing, which is a fantastic extension that goes through any errors, warnings, and items on your structured data. On top of that, the Google locator change. I want to make sure that our audience knows that, because there's since that was removed from the SERPs a long time ago, changing up your location to be able to see how your site's ranking from a different, and there's a paid application there. I think it's like a 14-day trial, but be able to see how everything's working in different locations, I think, is incredibly immensely valuable. Any final extensions that you see as up-and-comers, or something that is just so unique that you got to have it? Okay, so I would say this is the one I think we already mentioned, Core SERP Vitals, the one that's showing you Core Web Vitals in SERPs, and there is an extension G Infinity, which allows you to add an infinite scroll to Google search results. So you just, this is very useful. You don't have to click on the second, fourth, and other pages. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. What a wealth of information and knowledge. Olga, we certainly do appreciate your time today. And we recommend our listeners go back and check the first episode, as we covered SEO audit and different concepts and the plethora of tools that are there. Immensely powerful what you've been able to put on this site so far, and you earned everything that you're getting right now in ranking. So kudos to you, Olga. Last thing I want to ask, what really bugs you about your second to last thing, what bugs you about your industry right now?
So I would say the biggest thing that bugs me is that really a lot of people are relying on those automated audits.
Yep.
And I noticed that even some people sell those audits like for really huge money, but they don't really do anything just other than clicking the button to generate the audit. For instance, SiteBulb, once you crawl the site and you click, there is an option to export the audit into PDF.
Yeah.
Such audit will have like 80
it's massive
pages, and it will really look awesome, really. But what effort was put into it? Really, I think this is the thing that bugs me the most. That though people don't apply their common SEO common SEO brains into those audits.
No, and I mean, we should also recommend I mean, by and large, clients are digitally savvy. You know, that if they've got a website, they've probably worked with different digital marketing firms, and they should actually start to know and recognize some of these automated reports out there. If you're not seeing insights, if you're not actually seeing communication from your SEO agency inside these reports, it probably is just an automatic click of the button there. Sitebulb is really cool. There's a lot of really, really well done canned presentations out there, but look to insights and multiple tools to actually tearing apart key concepts. All right. Conversely, what excites you about your industry right now? You certainly have a lot to be excited about, right?
Yeah. So I would say this is the openness of people from Google and other SEOs, that there are so many resources that we can learn from, we can watch, listen to, that we can even ask a question to John Mueller and there is a chance he will respond. We can jump into Google SEO office hours and he will answer your questions. This is not how things were when I was starting. I really needed to look for many courses. It was way more difficult to learn and to learn actually good things, the actual things that work. And now all of this knowledge is really accessible. All you need to is really put your effort, time, energy, and focus, and you can have it.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you if you had any other final thoughts for the SEO community, and really tell us where you're going from here.
So what I'm going through now is I am planning to teach people about my SEO auditing process, because I have been receiving a lot of messages from people who wanted to learn, who wanted more clear instructions on how I do those things, even though my guides are very long. Some of them requested that maybe I should create video guides for those steps. And this is what I started to do in my premium membership area of my site, SEO Site Pro, where I document each and every step. And sometimes I create a video which takes like 30 minutes when I just discuss one specific step out of, now currently there are more than 200 steps. So I want to move towards teaching my SEO process and teaching SEO auditing and sharing as well. So sharing and teaching and of course doing technical SEO audits as I'm doing them right now, because I really love that.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for what you're doing and keep up the good work. And I am certain we're going to be swinging back around to you and asking to unpack one of your detailed blog posts, because
I'll be happy.
It certainly is well worth a couple of episodes here. Olga, from all of us over at Edge, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing next.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here and I'll be happy to come back.
You're very good. All right, so if you want to follow Olga on Twitter, you can follow her at Olga Zarzeczna. That's Olga, Zarzeczna. On Facebook, SEO Sly.com. On LinkedIn, Olga Zarzeczna as well. Be sure to check out the first segment of the Olga Zarzeczna podcast posted last week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web Online. Give us a review on this show in particular. Let Olga know how she did on this show, because what a rising star in the SEO community, and we certainly wish her all the best. Thanks to our sponsors, Site Strategics and Wix. Be sure to check out the must-see videos and much more over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. Next show, we're going to have another star, and she's just killing it. That's Christina Azarenko. We're going to be talking to her on the fact that you don't have to have perfect SEO to succeed. So we're going to unpack that as well. So from all of us over at Edge of the Web, be safe, be well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week.